The entire trajectory of the Washington Commanders season hinges on Jayden Daniels being able to patiently dismantle conservative defenses, and that challenge begins this Sunday. That and more right now on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Commanders. I am David Harrison, your guy on the ground covering the Washington Commanders for WUSA 9, right here with you 5 days a week. You can also find me writing about the Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com, and you can follow me on X at dharrison82. I want to thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen or your first view. And a special thank you goes out to all of the everydayers, those of you who come through for every single episode. Special thank you goes out to you if it's your first time here. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the new season. Hopefully you like what you hear and you come back again and listen or see us real soon. Coming up on today's episode, we're going to get into the team's mindset for week one, rookie nerves, and veteran confidence. We're also going to break down the key matchups that will lead to a Washington Commanders win. But first, we're focusing on the quarterback duel with Jayden Daniels and Russell Wilson. All of that is coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're going to start this whole thing off with the quarterback duel. Listen, we went over this with Lamar Jackson and Jayden Daniels. We'll go over it time and time again. Obviously, Jayden Daniels and Russell Wilson are not going to be competing against each other physically on the field. Certainly, I don't think either of them is going to be spitting in the face of the other. Hello, Jalen Carter. Goodbye, Jalen Carter, before you even play a rep in the NFL season. Dumb move, whatever. Moving on. This game, Washington Commanders versus the New York Giants, it's going to present a classic clash of quarterback styles, right? Washington, obviously, Jayden Daniels can run around the park. He can do a lot of things off script, but we do know that the Commanders like to live within their design. They like to trust their design to free things up and then use Jayden Daniels that way, just kind of when it's necessary. Russell Wilson, however, has kind of made his career of being an off-script quarterback, right? Like he really, that second play, as people like to call it, that scramble play, really is kind of where he shines the most. So I think you have a little bit of a contrasting style here between the two quarterbacks, where Jayden, as young as he is, sometimes offensive line has some issues last year to where he had to live off that second play. But you see that this team really has kind of an intensity or an intention to live off that first play, only get to the second play when you have to. So for the Washington Commanders, Jayden Daniels, the challenge here against the New York Giants this weekend is going to be facing that conservative bend, don't break style of defense that we really started to see when they changed defensive coordinators from Wink Martindale following the 2023 NFL season into 2024. Previously a super heavy, blitz heavy team. This defense, not as blitz heavy, certainly a little bit less, or certainly looks to just kind of keep things in front of them a little bit more, contain the offense, force you to string together long drives. So the Commanders' offensive philosophy to defeat a defense like that is going to have to be patient. You have to be willing to have those methodical drives, attack the seams, which we saw a good amount of that during training camp and a little bit into the preseason. Go back to that big catch and run by Colson Yankoff against the Baltimore Ravens. Those are the type of seam routes, seam plays we saw from the Washington Commanders during training camp. And of course, you saw it there in the preseason. In addition to attacking the zones, you're going to want to play the underneath game, use the seams, attacking the seams. You're going to want to use the underneath game to attack their zones. And again, take advantage of that conservative coverage scheme. That's where guys like Zach Ertz really shines, where guys like Deebo Samuel, short game experts, things like that. Luke McCaffrey, maybe even a little bit if he doesn't need to chip block as much as he did last year, could certainly potentially do some damage. Jalen Lane as well, et cetera, just kind of rolls through, right? This starts by establishing a very physical run game to attack that New York Giants soft front seven. Now, I know there's a lot of praise for the front seven. I agree the front seven is great, but typically this front seven in the New York Giants is really great when it comes to pass rushing. Dexter Lawrence is obviously really great in the middle of it there, but this Giants defense, if you missed the crossover Thursday episode with Patricia Traina of Locked On Giants and we talked about this, not very good against the run, even though they have some of these really good names. Now they add Abdul Carter to the mix. We'll see what he can add from that aspect as a run defender, because we know obviously pass rusher, I should say. He's expected to be pretty electric in the course of his career. But that run defense has been especially suspect there for the New York Giants, dating back even to last season. Now, once that run is established and the plan from there, creating some explosive plays, using play action, deep shots, things like that. It's a fairly common, right? It's pretty standard stuff. And when you hear these coaches talk about it, like everybody kind of does the same thing. If you have a conservative top coverage type of defense, the way you suck them in and bring them closer to the line of scrimmage is by running the ball really effectively, using the underneath stuff, hitting those soft zones, things like that. That forces them up into the box where they don't want to be. Then you hit them with the play action, get that safety to crash down or hesitate or whatever. That's when you can take that deep shot, right? So the magic doesn't happen in the methodology or the strategy of it. That the strategy is pretty common. The magic happens in how you're going to get to it. We'll talk about that more heading into the weekend. Kliff Kingsbury has noted that communication with Jayden Daniels has improved significantly this offseason training camp and says that the back and forth between the two has grown a lot. And that's pretty impressive considering we all remember Monday Night Football week 3 last year. Jayden Daniels called Kliff Kingsbury to say, hey, let's take that deep shot we talked about. They take the deep shot, they score on it, good things happen, and all those things. So that was week 3 last year. So the fact that communication is growing even more, and Kliff Kingsbury even saying on Thursday that he's basically told Jayden Daniels, look, I'm just along for the ride. We need to make this what you want it to be, what you're comfortable with, and then we'll all be successful. I think that's a really mature, really good way to look at it from a coach with as much experience as Kliff Kingsbury has here in the National Football League. Now, that's Jayden Daniels. Let's talk about the other side of this quarterback matchup, Russell Wilson, and how the Washington Commanders defense can try to disrupt what he likes to do, because last season we saw this team learn the hard way. They already knew it, right? But they reinforced that lesson the hard way, getting beat not just on a deep ball moonshot in the end zone or towards the end zone late in the game, just on that play. That ended up being a game-winning touchdown. I still say that they had the 4th down conversion, and if they get that 4th down conversion, they'd likely win the game. But I digress because it didn't happen. Defense coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. on Thursday took full responsibility for that play specifically, saying, quote, he hit one against us last year, won the game. It was a bad call by me. Making that call in that situation wasn't very smart, end quote. I asked I asked cornerback Mikey Sandersill about that play. Again, it was over Benjamin St. Juste, wasn't over Mikey Sandersill, but just kind of asking just the dynamics of that play, kind of what went down. And Mikey basically just said it was about assignments, right? Just being smart, understand the situation, being in the right place. Pretty much said what we all said at the time, what we've all said about the play since then. But I also understand Joe Whitt and kind of his stance of like, look, we know this dude loves this shot. Knowing your personnel, you know that the cornerback that you have running that coverage isn't really very good at running that coverage. So maybe do something a little bit different, over there. Now, the threat here, Joe Whitt Jr. praising Russell Wilson's signature skill, that moon ball, says, quote, he throws the ball really good outside in numbers deep. He's one of the best that's done it, end quote. This, combined with his ability to extend the play that backyard style of football, is really what the Washington Commanders have to defend against. On the vulnerability in Russell Wilson's game is that he is very susceptible to interior pressure. And I say this, no quarterback loves interior pressure. Every quarterback hates it. But some quarterbacks react a little bit differently. Just like every quarterback can throw the ball deep, but not every quarterback can throw the ball deep as well as others. Russell Wilson, he's on the higher end of the spectrum of throwing the deep ball well. He's also on the higher end of being influenced by pressure up the middle. Hates when that happens. So that interior of the offensive line for the New York Giants, already considered a liability. If the Washington Commanders can exploit that, turn it into a real liability in game, then that is when Russell Wilson is susceptible to throwing quick passes without making reads, not seeing the entire field, making mistakes, putting the ball up for defensive backs to make plays. And I'll give you a little bit of a bold prediction because we're not really doing that this season in the actual episodes, but a little bit of a bold prediction here. I think Quan Martin is going to come up with an interception on one of those passes where Russell Wilson has pressure in his face, just wants to get rid of the ball because he doesn't like the pressure. Quan Martin is going to be able to key in on it, jump it, go up and get it, whatever type of pass it ends up being, and get an interception. So that's a little look at a quarterback matchup here this weekend, week 1, New York Giants against the Washington Commanders. Jayden Daniels, Russell Wilson leading their two teams in. And while the quarterbacks are going to get all the attention, just like they're getting top attention here in this episode, this divisional game will ultimately be decided by which team controls the line of scrimmage. That and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you in part by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and the fastest way to get in on the action. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can take your takes and return your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. I've been playing Prize Picks since they first joined the network. Love it. It's a fun way to stay locked in throughout any season, any sports season. Based on our conversation, I'm taking more on Jayden Daniels' passing yards projection. And for Russell Wilson, with the Commanders' pass rush and secondary, I'm leaning less on his passing touchdowns projection. This Sunday, September 7th, you can get Lamar Jackson at a discounted projection of just 0.5 passing yards. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders also brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, beyond style, and beyond performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. That starts with safety you can trust. Mazda has won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. But the focus, or its focus on the details, is where they really shine. As an athlete focuses on every detail, Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. We spent our first segment talking about the methodical design for Jayden Daniels. That's kind of the precision we're talking about when we're looking forward to seeing on Sunday. You can feel that same attention to detail and the movement you get behind the wheel, the smooth handling and intuitive controls. It's the small details that make up the biggest plays. And just like that, there's more to every player. There's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. The Washington Commanders' clearest path to victory is to physically dominate a Giants front seven that is characterized as fundamentally soft. They're not a physically imposing team. Dexter Lawrence notwithstanding, even on the edge, more of a speed, more of a finesse type of team. They're going to beat you. They're not typically going to overpower you. They're going to beat you with technique. They're going to beat you with speed. Like I said, in some games, stunts and twists, things like that. So 3 keys to a week 1 win for the Washington Commanders. First key is going to be establish a physical run game. The game plan for this team, for this game, has to be to establish that physical run game, attack that quote unquote soft front seven from the very first snap. And I think that's where you look at this versatile running back room. We've been talking about these 4 running backs. Are there going to be 4 active on game day? If there's only going to be 3, which 3 are it? Is it? And that's really kind of the question the coach staff is going to have to answer. And it really depends on the plan of attack. How do you want to attack this New York Giants front seven? Austin Eckler, I think, obviously is going to be kind of the lead dog in there. Whether he leads the game in touches and all that stuff is really going to depend on the whole hot hand theory. Kliff Kingsbury was asked about believing or not believing the whole hot hand approach, and certainly he believes in that hot hand approach. Jeremy McNichols, I think, is going to be active because he's that another veteran presence in the running back room. Then it comes down to Chris Rodriguez and Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt. And I think right now, Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt probably has the edge on being active over Chris Rodriguez if there's only 3, because I think this team just sees a little bit more explosiveness, a little bit more burst and potential in which Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt can bring to the field. However, if they keep 4, Chris Rodriguez, certainly when you think of attack the quote-unquote soft front seven of a team, I mean, Chris Rodriguez is kind of that back you think of in this running back room, so it would make sense to have him available as well. But it's going to be a tough decision. Team can't take all 53 men into the game, unfortunately. They've got to have some inactives. Josh Johnson, the third quarterback, is going to be inactive because they can make him inactive, dress him, and still have him available as an emergency quarterback. But beyond him, there's going to be some tough decisions for this team to make for sure. So that's our first key, establish that physical run game. Again, if you can do that, you bring those defenders into the box, you make them crash the line of scrimmage a little bit more, and it just makes that play action work a whole lot more, and you open up those moon shots that Jayden Daniels can throw pretty well as well. Key number 2, disciplined containment. Again, we talked about Russell Wilson and his backyard football style that's made him so much money, made him so many plays, helped win him the Super Bowl in his career, go to a couple of Super Bowls, things like that. So for the Washington Commanders, you've got to be disciplined in your containment. You can't get overrun on any one side, end up over pursuing, getting out of your lane, and you leave him with a cutback somewhere else where you can really either extend the play to find an open receiver or just get loose on his own and run and do damage there. It's easier said than done, certainly, but it can be done. We've seen it before. And, practicing against a guy like Jayden Daniels should give you some experience in trying to do just that and give you the ability to do that maybe just a little bit more. So discipline rush lanes. Don't let him escape to his right. It's where he likes to go the most, just like Jayden Daniels does, just like pretty much every right-handed quarterback does. I love people when people jump up and say, Jayden Daniels loves to throw to the right. Jayden Daniels loves to run to the right. Yeah, bro. So does every right-handed quarterback in the history of the game. But anyway, it is a strategic point to talk about. It's just not like that groundbreaking, right? Key number 3, create hesitation and turnovers. With the defense, you got to create that pressure. Again, want to get in the face of Russell Wilson, but also he's shown over the time of his career that when he has that pressure in his brain, right? Pressure is cumulative. If you hit him a few times early in the game, sack him a few times earlier in the game, he's going to start to feel that pressure even when it's not there. That is when simulated pressures come in. Simulated pressures, just to explain it real quick, you might bring, say, 6, 7 guys up on the line of scrimmage, look like you're going to bring a whole heck of a lot of people, but you actually only bring 4. Now, here's the key. It could be 4 D linemen. It could be 2 linebackers, 2 D linemen. It might be a corner, a safety, 2 linebackers. It could be 2 D linemen, a linebacker, and a safety. That's the whole key, is you look like you're bringing 6, 7, even 8 if you want to be really bold, but you only bring 4. You drop the rest into coverage, and if you get it and you time it correctly, and a quarterback like Russell Wilson feels the pressure anyway, he throws it, you might have a guy in that lane to make a big play, get a takeaway. So those are the 3 keys for the Washington Commanders to defeat the New York Giants as I see it. Again, establish that run game, discipline containment against Russell Wilson as he tries to scramble, create hesitation in the quarterback, and get takeaways. Joe Whitt Jr. also told us that in practice, the Washington Commanders defense has been getting takeaways. We saw that during training camp, and he's confident that it's going to translate to the games. He did say, look, last year in practice, they weren't getting takeaways in practice and they weren't getting takeaways in games. Now they're getting takeaways in practice. So hopefully that's going to translate to the playing field as early as week 1. 3 matchups that are going to decide this game that go with those keys. The Commanders' interior pass rush against the Giants' interior offensive line. Again, you want to get that pressure in the face of Russell Wilson. So Javon Kinlaw, Daron Payne, Johnny Newton, Eddie Goldman, not really much of a pass rusher. Sheldon Day, if he's out there, right? But you want to see those interior linemen. Dietrich Wise Jr., when he drops down inside, when he drops down, reduces into the defensive line, also capable of doing those things. Dorrance Armstrong Jr. could also reduce down, play a little bit inside, and do those things as well. Second matchup that's going to help dictate things, wide receiver Terry McLaurin versus that Giants bend, don't break defense, right? The game plan, again, you want to attack that conservative defense by bringing those defenders in, establish that run game, and then boom, hit him with a haymaker, 40-yard bomb for a touchdown to number 17. What a way to start the season that would be. Third matchup here, Commanders linebackers against Giants running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. Joe Whitt Jr. called Tracy a significant threat, said, quote, I think Tracy is a really good runner. He has patience. He has really good contact balance, end quote. That threat is going to be met by a duo of linebackers that Joe Whitt Jr. describes as, quote, 2 of the best linebackers in the National Football League, end quote. Of course, he's talking about Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, 2 guys who also understand that Russell Wilson likes to use his tight ends a lot. Talk to Frankie Louvu about that in the locker room. And he's talking about having to be disciplined, but also be aggressive. Make sure you're in your place. Make sure you're following your assignment to take that option away. And that's another thing. Russell Wilson doesn't like that up the middle pressure. Well, usually what do quarterbacks get taught? Throw it where they're coming from. So if you blitz up the middle, he's going to throw over the middle looking for Theo Johnson. Who knows? Frankie Louvu maybe comes up with one of those interceptions, or maybe Frankie Louvu gets a tip pass and then Quan Martin gets the interception I predicted. I don't know. I'd love it for either one of those guys. Even the most detailed game plan is vulnerable to unique pressure and the emotion that only week 1 can bring. We'll dive into that right now on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you in part by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend, so it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it on down. For the Commanders, I'm looking for defensive tackle Daron Payne to deliver in a big way this Sunday. We spent segment 2 discussing how the key to stopping Russell Wilson is interior pressure. That starts with number 94. As far as I'm concerned, I'm looking for a breakout performance where he consistently collapses the pocket against a vulnerable Giants offensive line. When the pressure is on to disrupt their entire offense, he's the one who needs to come through. No hesitation, no delay. And just like we're counting on Daron Payne to deliver for the Commanders, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. You can feel a whole lot of energy in the Washington Commanders locker room. By the way, new locker room. I posted some photos. on Twitter. If you're not over there on X, at DHarrison82 if you want to check those out. Super impressive locker room upgrade. Josh Harris, ownership group, bravo. It's nice. It's clean. But you can feel the energy in that locker room, man. Week one's coming, but you can feel that there's different types of energy, right? There's some guys who are just ready to go, but they're also just kind of like, yeah, we're ready to go. They're like a heavy sounding engine at the starting line, just kind of, and then you got the turboed up, high pitched engine that's just ready to screech off the line. Those are your rookies, right? Calm focus of veterans, excitement of rookies. The rookie experience here, talked to running back Corey Krosky-Merritt, Bill on his debut coming up this weekend, said, quote, I'm definitely juiced up, but I'm just going to treat it like any other game. My first actual big NFL game, so I'm definitely excited to go do my job, end quote. But you could feel the excitement in Bill. He's looking forward to try to deliver on some of that hype that everybody's been building around him. Kliff Kingsbury, offensive coordinator, comment on that hype, said it's very interesting to hear a guy or see a guy getting this much hype before he's actually really done anything real on the football field. But hey, man, that's what this sport does, man. NFL's king for a reason. Rookie linebacker Cade Medrano on the nerves. Quote, obviously, I'm going to have nerves. I think nerves are a good thing. If you're not nervous, I think it should be something that you should be kind of scared of if you're not nervous. End quote. I've always told people if you're nervous about a situation, it's because you care. And if you care, that's a good thing, right? You just have to learn how to focus it in the right way. Of course, that's a challenge for every rookie making their NFL debut, their first real NFL debut. Jayden Daniels has talked about that before. Now a little bit of a veteran, right? Coming into his second year, he said, quote, last year I didn't know what I was getting myself into. There's no first game, didn't know what to expect. Now you just go out there, you have a routine, preparation, and consistent, end quote. So that's what we expect to see out of Jayden Daniels. But these other guys, they're just in that first part. And you can tell them, you know what I mean? Look, stay calm, take a breath, do all this. It's your first NFL game, man. You're going to be hyped up, turned up, and a sold-out Northwest Stadium is only going to add to the hype and the nervousness, right? Safety Quan Martin talked about his development as a safety second year, being that solo safety. He said he wants to just go out there, be in the right position, and give himself opportunities to make plays. And again, like I said, my little bold prediction here, I think he's going to go out there and make those plays. Coach's view on week one, head coach Dan Quinn describing the feeling of week one, said, quote, it's awesome. And I think you're stepping out on that journey together. That's what week one means to me. There is a stepping off point that, okay, it's time. And you felt that energy. It just happens and you feel it in the building, end quote. And you certainly do feel it in the building, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to wrap it up here for today's episode of Locked On Commanders. Coming up next time, we are going to drop a bonus episode of Locked On Commanders. I'm calling it my game plan episode. I plan on doing this all season long. We'll start it off here this week, see kind of how it goes. I'm going to deliver to you my offensive game plan, my defensive game plan, and then I will tell you my prediction for week one of the 2025 NFL season. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, if you got questions, if you got comments, you can text those directly to me by becoming a Locked On Commanders insider at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NFL season preview of Locked On NFL. Every division winner, breakout stars, Super Bowl contenders, 8-episode series on everything you need to know about the NFL season. One game is already in the books, but we still got a whole lot more to go, not just this week, but the entire rest of the season. So find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And oh, by the way, yours truly, the Wednesday afternoon guest with Tony Wiggins on Locked On NFL. If you want to check that out every Wednesday afternoon. To the everydayers, I see you every day. I appreciate you every day. And I thank you especially today for coming through for yet another episode. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, and we'll talk again real soon right here on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.